We're going to make a few different spoilers in this tutorial. We're going to start out with this one right here, and then we're going to move on to a simple one. This is an older style one, very simple, not a lot to it. And then we'll make another older style one, this one like this. And we'll go to a more detailed one. This is a newer one. This one goes on a Ferrari. This is the only one that's actually asymmetrical, which just means that the left side and the right side are different. So this is probably just so that there's more downforce on, I'm guessing, this side, and there's less downforce on this side, so it might help for left turns, I'm guessing. That's my guess, I'm not really sure. But I did add in some details to this, like all the screws here and these details down in this area. So this is probably the most complex one. These other ones are fairly simple. This one's probably the second hardest one, but these other two are pretty simple. So the first thing you're going to want is a car model. That'll help tell you like the size of the spoilers and just help get you used to positioning the pieces that connect down onto the car. So in order to get this car model, just go open up your browser. This link will be in the description. You can just click the link and then you'll have this pop up. You're going to need an account, so you're either going to have to log in or sign up if you don't have an account. So log in if you have an account or sign up. And then just go down and click on download. Once you've logged in, it'll just let you download it. Then just go to wherever you saved it. It'll have a zip file like this. You can double click on it. Then you're going to double click on source and then just double click on this Blender file and it will open up the file that I have open right now. So I'm going to press N to close this panel on the right, and then I'm going to go to create and I'm going to choose cube. I'm going to tab into edit mode and I'm going to bring this over on the x-axis. Then I'm going to add in a mirror modifier, so go to add modifier, choose mirror, turn on clipping and turn on this option. Then I'm going to select this face. You should already be in face select, so just change to face select if you're not. Select this face, press delete and choose faces. Then I'm going to press A to select everything and just bring these together so that they'll merge at the center. For a lot of spoilers and stuff, just starting with a cube it's pretty simple. It's pretty common that a cube will work out well. So now I'm just scaling it with S and then positioning it back towards the back of the vehicle. You don't necessarily have to start with a cube. You could start with a plane if you wanted, but a cube is pretty common for a spoiler. It works out pretty good for most spoilers. So if you want, you can go to top view by pressing 7, then do S and X and scale it along the x-axis to whatever size you want it to be. And for this spoiler, we want it to be fairly thin, so we're just going to do S and then Z, scale this down on the Z-axis to be a bit smaller than what it was. And you can do S and Y to scale it a bit out because it's a bit fatter on the y-axis than what we had it. Then I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to take these two faces, or just one face really, so just select it, E to extrude, right click to cancel, then I'm going to bring this back. And I'm just going to bring these up, so just bring it up on the Z-axis here. Then to add a little more curvature to this, we can do Control R, left click, right click, and just bring this down slightly so that we have more of a gradual curve rather than just a straight line. Next thing we're going to do is do Control R. We're going to left click and drag this in. The front part of this spoiler seems to just curve out a bit from what I could tell on the reference I was using. So we're going to go to edge select and we're going to select these edges here. So you should have these three. Select one, hold shift, and select the other one. And then we're just going to bring this out slightly. And then you're going to select the center one and bring it out slightly again, because I don't really like how it looks if you leave it completely flat on the front. And right now, looking at this, I think mine's a little bit too wide now, so I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to select this face and then hold shift and select this one. And I'm just going to bring it back a little bit so it's not quite that big. Next, I'm going to switch to edge select, and I'm going to select these edges here, so these two edges. And I'm going to bring this out on the y-axis a bit. Then I'm going to grab it on the z-axis, hold control, and snap it to this point here. Vertex snapping should already be on if you're using this model. If it's not, just go down here and change this to vertex. So left click here and change this to vertex if it's not already. And then you should be all set to grab it on the z-axis, hold control, and snap it there. So this just makes it nice and flat on the top there. Then we're going to grab these edges, so those two edges, and we're going to adjust these as well, just to make changes to this to fit the curvature better. And then the last thing I'm going to do is switch to face select and select the bottom faces. And we're just going to bring this up so that it's a bit skinnier because I'm not really happy with the size of it there. And then I'm going to adjust this one more time just to get the shape that I'm looking for. And now we want to create the side fins that go over here, so we're just going to go to the Create tab. And before we actually create anything, we want to kind of move this away from the center. So I'm going to just left click over here, and then we're going to create a cube, and I'm going to scale it down with S, and just bring it over into position. Make it pretty skinny on the x-axis, so just do S then X and make it pretty skinny. Then you can grab it on the x-axis, hold control, and snap it there. So you want it to be over to the right first, and then grab it on the x-axis, hold control, and snap it there. That just makes sure that all the vertices that are on this side will line up with the vertices that are part of this piece here. Then if you want to adjust the size of it or how thick it is, go to face select, select this face, and then you can adjust the size of it like this. So I'm going to switch to vertex select, and I'm going to select the vertices that are over here, and I'm going to bring them back so that they're just a little bit further back than this part. So we want them just a little bit further back, should be fine. And then these bottom two, so I'm going to select these bottom two, they're just going to be curved in just a little bit. These two in the front, we're going to take them and just bring them quite a bit in front of this part here. And then these two here, we're going to bring them down a little bit, and then we're also going to bring them back some, so it's more like this. These bottom ones, I'm just going to select all four of them real quick, and I'm actually just going to bring them up some just to make this a little bit smaller. We're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, we're going to bring this down a little bit. Then I'm going to select these back two here, and we're just going to bring these in slightly. Then we're going to select the two in the front, so just make sure you get both of them. You're going to bring them down quite a bit and then bring them over so it's more, looks kind of more like a triangle. It's still a quad, but you kind of want it to have that triangle look. Then up here it's supposed to kind of curve out and then curve back, so we want to do Control R and mouse wheel up, then do left click, right click. Then we're going to select the two vertices right here and just bring these back to create more of a curve, and then do the same here, select these two and just bring this back to make a nicer curve. Just adjust these until you're happy with the shape of your curve. The next step is to just pull in these bottom vertices. So we're going to select these four. So you want these four on the bottom, and then we're just going to bring them in on the x-axis. So we're going to bring them in like this. Then we're going to select these two vertices. We want to add a bevel to this so it's nice and rounded. So we're going to do Control B and mouse wheel up once and just give this a bevel. Then we're going to select this vertex and shift select this vertex here, do J to join those together, and we're going to have to do the same on the other side. Select this one, shift select this one, and J to join those together. Then we're going to select these two and we're just going to move them back some just so that the angle is not so extreme. The next thing we want to do is start adding bevels to the outside of all this. So we're going to switch to edge select, and we can actually just tab into object mode and then go to tools and turn on smooth shading so we can get a better idea of what this is going to look like. Then just tab back into edit mode. We're going to alt right click, alt and shift right click, and just continue doing that until you have the entire outer edge loop selected. Then you're going to continue holding Alt and Shift and right clicking to get the opposite side here. Just make sure you have the entire edge loop on both sides. Then you're going to do Control B and we're just going to add in a small bevel here. So just do Control B. If you want to, just hold Shift and it'll do a smaller bevel. And we're going to mouse wheel up twice just to get some better shading. And then we're just going to left click once we're happy. So now once we look at this, it should be pretty good. So the next thing to do is to Alt right click here. We need to add in a nice crease line right here. So to do that, we're going to add a bevel here, but first we have to select all the edges here. So you're going to Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click to get that. And you should have all the edges all the way around. Then what you're going to do is do Control B again and just mouse wheel up once and just give this a nice bevel. Next we're going to bevel this corner, so we're going to go over here, we're going to do Alt right click, then we're just going to do Control B and mouse wheel up once and give this corner a bevel. Then we'll switch to Vertex select this vertex and then Shift select this one. J to join those together, you're going to have to do the same on the opposite side, so select those and J to join those together. You can, if you want, bevel this corner too. So if you wanted to do that, we can actually just do Control Z a few times and get rid of these two edges. So just do Control Z till they're gone. And then you can do Alt right click here, do Control B, mouse wheel up once, and then just bevel that slightly if you want to. It doesn't look too much different, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But then you're just going to join these over so that you have quads. So you're going to join the bottom two, the middle two, and then you'll just have all quads. So you'll have to do the same on the other side as well. So select these, J to join, select these, J to join. And you could have done the same on the bottom. You could have just beveled that a little bit. Select, just Alt right click, Control B, mouse wheel up once, and give that a slight bevel. Then instead of connecting this over here, we can switch to Edge select this, delete, and do Dissolve Edges. Vertex select, and we'll select this vertex and this one, J to join, these two, J to join, and you'll probably get some better shading now that we've done that. So we'll do the same on the other side, switch to Edge select this, delete, Dissolve Edges, Vertex select, and select these two, J to join, and then select these two, J to join. So that's it for that piece. That's looking really good. This other piece, I'm just going to go back to edit mode. You can do Control L to select that entire side wing, and then just do H to hide it. Switch to Edge select, and we're going to do some bevels here to make this look better. So we're going to Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, and continue doing that until you have all these outer loops selected. So it's the entire top loop that goes around here, and then the bottom loop that goes all the way around the top here too. Then you're just going to do Control B, hold Shift if you want, mouse wheel up twice, give it a nice little bevel, and that should really help with the shading right there. Then to make this even better, we're just going to go back into edit mode. We're going to add some bevels to these corners, so just Alt right click here. Then you're going to go over here, Alt and Shift right click. We're going to do Control B and mouse wheel up once and just give this a decent sized bevel. Then we're going to go to Vertex select, and you're going to select the outer two and J to join. Then these middle two and J to join those as well. Then we're going to go to the back. We're going to select the outer two again, J to join. When I tried joining these two middle ones together, it didn't work so well. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to do Control R, left click, right click, then select these two, J to join, and select these two and J to join. So it's basically what we wanted. It's the same thing as what we wanted, but it wasn't working with J to join for whatever reason. So now we have really nice shading, things are looking good. The last part is to make something to allow this to connect to the car itself. So we're just going to tab into edit mode, go to create. We're going to choose a cube again, and we're going to do S and scale this down. You can do S and X to make this pretty skinny here. Then we're just going to move it into position, so move it back to where it should be, back here. And you can scale it down some more. We're just going to bring this one down until it's kind of at the top or kind of at the bottom, I mean. If we want to make sure it's perfectly at the bottom, just bring it down some more, grab it on the Z-axis, hold Control, snap it there. So we're going to bring some of these in some, so we're going to take these two vertices, we're going to angle it back some. A lot of times you'll have this backward angle on spoilers, where this part that connects is further out or further towards the window. And then we'll take these two and we'll take these two as well, and we'll just bring this in so it's lining up a lot better with this. This back part kind of, kicks out, and you'll see what I mean when we do this, but we're going to do Control R, bring this down, and then we're going to select these two and just bring it out so it goes straight and then it kind of kicks back out. So now we're just going to bring these down so that it goes through the car and it's kind of hiding just like the other ones are. If you wanted to, you could bring these two down too so it's still got that nice little kick to it, and maybe bring these back a little more so it kind of kicks out a bit better. I think my spoiler's up a bit too high, so I'm going to select the vertex here, B to box select, and wireframe. So just use Z for wireframe, B to box select, and then you can just adjust the height of your spoiler to whatever you want. The last thing to do would be to add some bevels to these bottom objects here. So I'm just going to go to edge select an edge, do Control L, Shift H to hide everything else. Then I'm going to do Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, and we're just going to get all these outer edges. And you're going to want to do the bottom ones too, so just do Z for wireframe, get all these. Then we'll do Control B, mouse wheel up twice, and we'll just add some nice bevel to this. That should look pretty decent. If you want to kind of round this part off, you can just Alt right click, do Control B, and mouse wheel up as many times as you want until you have some nice curvature at this point. Once you're done with that, I'm just going to go back to Tools and make sure Smooth Shading's on. So as you can see, it wasn't really on for that piece, so that's why I did that. But this is the first one, looks pretty good to me. I like this a lot. It's a bit higher poly than my last one, but it looks a bit nicer too, so it's kind of worth it. So if you want to, just go to edit mode, do Alt H to unhide everything. That way, it's all right there. And then just make sure to save it, because we're gonna make another one. So just go to File, and you can probably want to do Save As and give it a different name. But I've already done that, so I'm just going to do File and Save. So we're going to make this second one. This one's pretty simple. So we're just going to start out with the same file we started with before. So we're going to go to File, and you're going to open the recent one. And it should say like Aston Martin, more materials, whatever. And then just left click on this one, and it'll bring you back to the starter file. Or you can always just go back to your desktop and double click here and then open up the file just as you did before, so that way you have everything back to normal. Then all you're going to do is just press N to close this panel, and again we're going to start with a cube. So we're going to create a cube. Just go to Create, choose Cube, tab into Edit Mode, bring this out, add Modifier, choose Mirror, turn on Clipping, turn on this option. Select this face, press delete, and choose faces. A to select everything, bring it to the center, then let go. S to scale this down and then bring it back into position. We're going to scale it down on the Z-axis to make this pretty thin. You can go to top view if you want, and then just size this to be whatever you want by doing S and then X. We're going to add in a little extrusion to this after, so you can make it a little bit smaller, and then we'll add in that little extrusion. Then do the same for the Y-axis, scale this down to be whatever you want, and adjust the Z-axis again if you feel you need to. Then just bring this into position. I think mine needs to be a little skinnier actually. And this thing's actually pretty close to the car, so I'm going to bring it pretty close. Then we're going to select this face, E to extrude, right click to cancel and bring it out. And then we're going to do S and Y to scale it in some, because it actually tapers off towards the end, and this end part actually gets pulled down, so we're going to pull it down on the Z-axis to kind of give it its downward curve. You'll see that quite a lot on a lot of spoilers, so it's pretty common. So that looks pretty good. You can do Control L and then just move this around if you want to move it up some on the y-axis or down some on the z-axis, that's fine. Then we're just going to add in some bevels to this, so we're going to switch to Edge Select, Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, and then just continue doing that until you have the top and bottom edge loops. Then you're just going to do Control B, mouse wheel up once or twice, whatever you feel like doing. And if you want to get a better look at this, just tab into Object Mode, go to Tools, turn on Smooth Shading, and you'll have a better idea of what this is going to look like once everything's applied. Then you're going to want to add in some more bevels, so you're going to want to bevel like these corners and then bevel this too. So we're going to do Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, Alt and Shift right click again. Then we're going to do Control B, mouse wheel up once. You can mouse wheel up twice if you want, it's up to you really if you want to do once or twice. Then whatever you do, you're just going to switch to Vertex Select. You're going to select the top two, J to join, the next two, J to join, and then things should be looking pretty decent. But you also want to do the same on the bottom. So go to the bottom, select those two, J to join, these two, J to join. That just makes sure we have all quads here. Then to finish this off, we're going to make that little part that connects down here. So we're going to go to Create, and we're going to create a circle. But first we want to move our 3D cursor, so we're just going to left click like over here. Make sure you're in edit mode, so tab into edit mode and create a circle. We're going to change the vertex count to 10 and then press enter. We're going to do S and then X. We're going to make this smaller on the X axis. Then we're going to bring it up and back into position. Scale it down some more if you need to. Then we're going to grab it on the z-axis, hold control, we're going to snap to one of these bottom points here, so it should be nice right on the bottom. Just make sure you got your scale correct, so right now just scale it to whatever you want. If you want it bigger, make it bigger, smaller, make it smaller, and position it wherever you want it. Then you're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring this down. We're also going to scale this out some, so scale it out a bit, just do S and scale it out some. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S to scale it out a bit again, bring it down on the Z-axis. This part down here is a little bit wider on the X-axis, so we're going to do S then X and make it a bit wider on the X-axis. And I actually think I want to adjust the X value on these two edge loops as well. So I'm going to Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, and then do S and X and make these a bit wider as well. Then I'm going to Alt right click on the bottom one, do E to extrude, right click to cancel and bring it down slightly. And I'm also just going to Alt right click and bring this down a bit more because I think this should be closer to the bottom. Then what we're going to do is kind of make this line up a bit better. So we're going to Alt right click, do Control plus a couple times to get all these. Do R then X and rotate this on the X axis. Then just kind of rotate it until it lines up nicely with the geometry. So these vertices are kind of nice and perfectly lined up right here, as you can see. And I think this whole thing's a bit big, so I'm just going to do Control L and scale this down some. And then just bring this back down again. Alt right click on these top ones, bring it up, hold Control, snap it there. And I'm going to scale this down quite a bit more just to make it, you know, fit my needs, and I'm going to bring it back some too. I'm going to select one of the vertices here, do Control L, Z for wireframe, B to box select and get the top ones on this piece. And I want to bring these all down because this type of spoiler, or the one that I was looking at as a reference, is actually very close to the car, so something like that would be pretty accurate. And again, I'm not really happy with the scale of this on the X-axis, so I'm going to do Control L, S and X and just make this a bit wider, and do the same for this top part, just make it a bit wider just because I'm not really happy with how it was looking. Then go to Object Mode, go to Tools and turn on Smooth Shading. Then we're going to add in some bevels to this, so I'm going to do Alt right click. I'm going to switch to Edge Select, then do Alt and Shift right click, do Control B, mouse wheel up once or twice, and that should be fine there, so that's looking a little bit better. I think that's going to be good for that one. That one looks pretty good, so we're just going to save this one too. I'm going to save this as a different name. You can do the same if you want, just save it, go to File, Save As, change the name. I've already done that, so I'm just going to do File Save. Next we're going to make this one. So this one's pretty simple too. It's an older style one. So you're going to open up the same file again. You're just going to go to File, Open Recent, and open up that starter file. Then you're going to do End, close this panel. We're going to create a circle this time. So we're going to go to Create, we're going to choose Circle. Change the vertex count to 16 and press Enter. Tab into Edit Mode. Bring this over on the x-axis, add modifier, do mirror. Turn on clipping, turn on this option. I'm going to change this to vertex select. And we're going to bring this back and up. And again, we want to scale this on the x-axis. So we're going to do S and then X and make this pretty small. And then scale it down some more and bring it into position. We want this to be quite a bit longer on the y-axis, so we're going to do S and Y and just scale it out on the y-axis. Just go until you feel, it's the correct size. One option we have here, I didn't actually do this on my original one, is to kind of rotate it so that it's going to be, angled more towards more parallel to this line is kind of what I'm trying to say. So if you want to do R and Z, and make it so that the direction of this is more parallel to this. You can do that if you want. I didn't do it on my original one, so I might do it here just to see how it turns out. Then we're going to do F to make a face. We want to actually just shrink wrap this to the car, because as you can see, these vertices are starting to disappear, and then it's not really very even as far as the car goes. So we're going to add modifier, we're going to do shrink wrap, click on target, this little eyedropper, then click on the car. We're going to change this to project, and we're going to turn on negative, and we're going to turn on the Z axis. This one's actually a Z, it's X, Y, Z, so turn this one on, and so it's only affecting the Z axis. Then if you tab into edit mode, you can see how your vertices are going to be once this is done. So once you're happy, make sure you're in object mode. You can click apply to apply this modifier. Then we're going to tab into edit mode. We're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring this up slightly. We're going to do I to do an inset and do a decent size inset here. Then just bring it up slightly again. Then we'll do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring this up. We're going to scale it down a lot, so just do S to scale it down a lot. I'm going to do S, Z, and then 0 to flatten this out on the Z axis and press enter. And just bring this back further, scale it down maybe a little bit more. We're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and we're going to bring this up slightly. Then we're going to do R, Y, and -90 and press enter. And we're going to want to bring this over some on the x-axis. We can see that it's kind of like angling up, so what we want to do is kind of flatten it out a bit if we can. So we're going to do RX and just rotate this a bit, try to get it a bit flatter, more like this one. Maybe bring this down a little bit more too. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and we're going to bring this in on the x-axis. Just bring it to the center, then do delete, and choose faces. Now we're going to create a better shape right here. We want this to be more rounded. So we're going to take these vertices here, just select one, Z for wireframe, B to box select, and just kind of bring this out a bit more. You can do the same here just to reflect those changes. Then once you're happy, you're going to alt right click, you're going to do Control B. You can mouse wheel up once if you want, or just leave it the way it is. And that'll just help to round out that corner. Then in object mode, we're going to go to tools, we're going to turn on smooth shading. So we're going to go back to edit mode, we're going to alt right click, switch to edge select, alt and shift right click, do Control B. And we're just going to add a bevel to this, mouse wheel up once or twice, whatever you feel you want to do. And that should be that. If you want to make this a bit wider, you probably can. Just go to Vertex Select, get a good view of this. You can do 3 for side view. Let's do Z for wireframe, B to box select. Select all those, and you can do S and Y and scale this out a bit. and that'll make that a little bit wider. I think I probably made the base in this one a little bit too big this time, but that's fine. You get the idea of how to do it. It's the same process either way. But once you're done with it and you're happy with it, just make sure to save it with a different name. And this actually, for this one was actually pretty tall. So this was one of those crazy tall ones. So you can just adjust the height to whatever you feel you want, but this one was supposed to be tall based on my reference I was using. So I'm going to just save it. You can do File, Save As. I already changed my name of this file, so I'm going to do File and Save. Alright, so now we're going to make the last spoiler. This is the last one right here. This one goes to a Ferrari. So we're just going to go start over again. So you're going to go back to your file and then go to File. You can do Open Recent and then open up the Aston Martin one that's like this. Or you can go to your desktop and open it that way, which we've done before. Then I'm going to press N to close this panel over here, and I'm going to create a cube, so go to Create and choose Cube. Tab into Edit Mode, bring it over on the X-axis. Add your mirror modifier, turn on clipping, turn on this option. Select this face, do Delete and choose Faces. Then do A to select everything, drag it to the center till it merges, till everything meets up in the center and it merges. Then we're just going to bring it back, bring it up, scale it down, all the usual stuff. Bring it into position. We're going to want this to be pretty skinny. This one's actually pretty skinny, so you're just going to do S and Z. Scale it down quite a bit on the Z axis. That's pretty good right there. I think that's a pretty good width as far as the Y axis is concerned too. So I'm going to select this back face, or these back two faces, and just bring this up slightly. Then I'm going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring it over, and then bring it up again. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring it over and up again. So now we have quite a bit of a curve here. It's probably a bit too much though, so I'm just going to bring these down, go to Vertex Select, Alt right click, and then just bring this one down as well. Then we're going to select this vertex, we're going to hold Control and select this vertex, so that'll get all four of these. If you want to, you can do Control 1, that'll do back view, and then we're just going to bring this over on the X-axis. The goal here is to make it so that we can kind of curve this down. That's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to make not necessarily a 45-degree angle, but we want this to be angled a bit so that it can be extruded and brought down. The other goal is to try to keep a similar thickness. So you have this thickness here. You want to try to have this to be a similar thickness to that. That's kind of the goal. Just keep everything even. That looks pretty good. So then you're going to go to Face Select and you're going to select these three faces here. E to extrude, right click to cancel, and just bring them downward. If you want to, you can switch to Vertex Select and then just select these vertices here. Grab it on the Z-axis, hold Control and snap it there. That'll just make sure that all these are at the same Z value. Like these two are at the same Z value, these two have the same Z value. So the bottom is just flattened out rather than being like how we had it right here, where it's kind of up a bit and it's kind of creating a point. So just grab it on the Z-axis, hold Control, snap it there, and you'll have a flatter bottom. Then you can just select all the bottom vertices, so just select all the bottom ones. And you can adjust how long you want this side piece. Just remember that this side piece is really only on this side. It's only on both sides now because we have the mirror modifier, but we're going to apply this and then remove this later, or actually use this to create the other side. So next we're going to create another cube to create the pieces that connect down to the car itself. So I'm going to go to the front and I'm just going to left click over in this area to move the cursor over here. Then just do Create and choose a cube. Just do this in edit mode so it's the same object. And we're going to scale this down and we're going to bring it into position. So bring it over towards the back of the car. We're going to scale it down quite a bit on the X-axis, so we're just going to do S and then X and make this really thin. And we're going to bring this towards the center because these two are actually very close to the center. And I'm probably going to scale mine down a little bit more on the X-axis. That's looking good. So I'm going to scale it down on the Y-axis, do S and Y and make it skinnier. and it actually tapers off, so the bottom is thicker than the top. So we want to select the vertices on the top and do S and then Y and scale them down so that it kind of has this taper to it. And the other thing is we can bring this down and bring it below the rest of this. And then grab it on the Z-axis, hold Control and snap it there. It looks like actually on my other one I had it kind of back further like this. So, and this is actually a bit skinnier, so I'm going to do S and Y and make this a bit skinnier. And then I'm going to take these two vertices and just pull them up till they're hiding in just inside this piece, but not sticking through the top. Then we kind of want this to angle forward a bit more, so I'm going to select the two vertices down here, just do Z for wireframe. I'm actually going to select these as well, and just bring them all up till they're closer to the car. And then I'm going to select the back two, bring them forward so it has more of a forward angle, and then just bring them down until it's hiding in the car. But I think I want the top to be a little bit thicker, so I'm just going to bring this back and then bring it up slightly again. Once you have the thickness and everything the way you want it, we're going to start adding in some more edge loops here, but I'm going to just adjust mine a bit more so that I get the shape that I want. Like I want something like that. And you also want to adjust the height too at this point, so you want to just select everything, select a vertex, B to box select. You can get the top and adjust the height like this if you want. Just drag it out on the x-axis so you're not actually scaling anything. And you can make your fin a little bit longer or a little bit wider. Now that that's done, we're going to add in some loop cuts here. We're going to do Control R, mouse wheel up once, left click, right click, Control R, mouse wheel up 3 times, so you should have 4 cuts, left click, right click. We're going to switch to face select, and we're going to select this face, hold Control, and select this face, do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and then just bring this out some. This is a piece that's kind of like screwed on or bolted on to this other piece for whatever reason. Then we're going to switch to edge select. We're going to do Control L and then Shift H to hide everything else. And we're going to select these two edges. And we're going to do Q to slide them up a bit. So you want to slide them up a bit until you have a shape that's kind of like this, where it kind of goes up and then back down. If you don't have your hotkey set up, go to Mesh, Edges, and Edge Slide, and you're just going to want to right click on this. It's going to say Add Shortcut, and click on that, hover your mouse over here and just press Q, and now your edge slide will be set to Q. Then we're going to do Alt H to unhide everything. We're going to switch to Vertex Select. We're going to select this vertex, G twice, slide it down a little bit. Select this one, G twice, slide it up a bit. This one, G twice, slide it up a bit. So we're just creating sort of this little S curve. Then we're going to Alt right click. We're going to do Control B, mouse wheel up once, and then just left click to confirm that. Then we're going to take these outer ones. We're going to select the top one, the bottom one, then the middle one. Do Alt M and choose at last. So the last one we selected was the middle one. So we want to merge it to the middle one. So we're going to select the top one, hold Shift, select the bottom one, continue holding Shift, select the middle one, Alt M, and do at last. Then we're going to take this vertex, hold Control, select this vertex, and you're going to bring it out on the x-axis. To get rid of these edges that go around the back, you're just going to do Alt right click, delete and dissolve edges, Alt right click again, delete and dissolve edges. So I left the edge that's in the center, so if you look at it before, this edge in the center is the one we're going to keep. Then you're just going to do delete and dissolve edges to get rid of these, the top and bottom ones. Correct the shading later, we're going to need an edge loop around the top of this and the bottom of this. So you might as well just do Control R and just bring this down, then do Control R and bring this up, and that will help correct the shading later on. Now we're going to create the bolts that hold this in place. So we're going to do that by creating a couple circles. Just make sure your cursor is, away from the center. Create a circle and change the vertex count to 10, then create another circle and change the vertex count to 6. Then we're going to press S to scale this one down. Then you're going to do Alt and Shift, right click, then Alt F, that's going to make triangles to fill in this area. Then we're going to Alt right click, we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S to scale this down a little bit. E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring it down some. E to extrude, right click to cancel, S to scale it down slightly. Then you're going to select two of the vertices on the inside and just press F a couple times, and that'll fill in that area. Then we're going to Alt right click here, E to extrude, right click to cancel, S to scale it out slightly. E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring it down. So this is our basic bolt. We're going to do Control L and Control N to recalculate the normals. R, Y, and then 90 and press Enter. S to scale this down. I'm going to do 3 for side view and G to move this. Then I'm going to scale it down some more, G to move it again. Z for wireframe, S to scale it down. So we're going to place it like right here. So I'm going to use G to move it, S to scale it down to the size that I want. And you can always change this a bit later if you want to. Then once you're done with that, we're just going to bring it over on the x-axis. And we're actually going to grab it on the x-axis, hold Control, and snap it to this point, so it should be snapped right up nicely against that piece right there. So now just take a look at your little bolt here. It'll be a little bit different once we add in smooth shading, but just make sure it's the right size. Then do Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, bring it over, and bring it down a little bit so that it's in position on this other side as well. Now we're going to hold Shift and select one of the vertices over here, do Control L, H to hide those. We're going to switch to Edge Select. We're going to go to Select and choose Sharp Edges, just leave it at the default sharpness there. We're going to deselect a couple of edges. We're going to deselect this one, so hold Shift and right click it. And then go to the front. We want to do the same on this one, hold Shift, right click there. We're going to add in there a different amount of bevel to those, so we're not going to select those at the moment. We also want to deselect these, so we're going to do C for circle select, middle mouse, deselect, then right click to get out of circle selection. Then we're just going to do Control B, mouse wheel up once, and add in a bevel to this. Then I'm going to do Tab, I'm going to go to Tools, and turn on Smooth Shading, so you have to be in Object Mode, turn on Smooth Shading. So we still have some work to do. You can see the shading's not the greatest. So we're going to go back to Edit Mode, we're going to do Control R, left click and drag this down. Do the same on the top, do Control R, drag it up, and then just drag it down slightly below the top. Then you're going to do Control R, left click, bring it over, and Control R, left click, bring it over again, so that you have all the sides. And it should look a bit nicer now. So we're going to fix the shading here too, so we're going to do Control R, left click, bring this over. But actually before we do this, I'm just going to undo that. We want to go to Vertex Select, and select this vertex. I'm going to do period to focus in on it. So when we did our bevels, it created this kind of outward then back inward effect, and we don't really want that. And it did the same here, so we're going to grab this one, just select it, grab it on the x-axis, hold Control, snap it there. Do the same here, select it, grab it on the x-axis, hold Control, snap it there, so that these lines are still straight. And we have to do the same on the other side, so over here, we're going to do exactly the same thing. Just grab this point, grab it on the x-axis, snap it, and then do the same with that one. Now we can add in our supporting edges, or edge loops. We're just going to do Control R, drag it over. With this one, because it comes to a triangle, we're going to have to select these two, press J to join those. And then do the same on this side, Control R, left click, drag it over. Select the two in the center, J to join. And now everything's looking a bit nicer. We're going to tab into Edit Mode, we're going to switch to Edge Select. And we're going to add in those bevels on these corners that we ignored. So we're going to do Alt right click here, and we're going to do Control B, mouse wheel up once, and give this a little bit of a bevel. Then we're going to go to this other corner over here, We're going to Alt right click, and then we're going to do Control B, mouse wheel up twice this time, and just give this a decent sized bevel to give it a nice curvature here. Then we're going to do Control R, we're going to left click and drag this down and switch to Vertex Select. Select these two and J to join, then these two, J to join again. Then we'll select these two, J to join, and then these two, J to join. And we're going to need to do the same on the back side. Just do Control R, drag this down, select these two, J to join, these two, J to join, then these two, J, and finally this one, and this top corner one, and J to join. Now we're going to make this whole thing asymmetrical because this side is supposed to be different than this side. So to do that, we actually have to apply the mirror modifier. So we have to go to object mode by pressing tab, make sure you're in object mode, and then just click apply to apply the mirror modifier. Then we're going to go back into edit mode by pressing tab. We're going to switch to face select, select one of these faces, do Z for wireframe. Then you're going to try to select all the same faces I'm getting. So you want all these that are part of this lower wing on this left side here. You won't have the right side, but all the way around you want to have all these edges selected right here, or all these faces actually. Then you're going to do Y to separate this into a separate piece. We're going to do Shift H to hide everything else. We're going to switch to Vertex Select, Alt right click on this top edge to get this entire edge loop. We're going to do S, Z, and then 0 to flatten it out on the Z axis and press enter. And then we're just going to bring it up on the Z axis. Then we're going to do Alt H to unhide so we can see what we're doing. Alt right click on this top edge loop again. We're going to do 3 for side view. And we're going to do R to rotate this a bit, so just to give it an angle. But you'll notice it needs to be a little bit more left and a little more right in order to match up with this. So we're going to do S and then Y, and scale it out on the Y axis a bit just so it matches up better with the top part here. Then you can still adjust this up and down if you want to until you're happy. Just give it a little bit of extra height on that side. And that's pretty much it. The only other thing is they have these bolts over here too. So if you want to, just select one of these, do Control L, select the vertex here, do Control L, Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, and bring this over. Then you're going to want to grab it again on the x-axis, hold Control, snap it there, so now it's perfectly flush with these faces here. Then you can do 3 for side view, Z for wireframe, and you can see where the wing part is. This is where it would have to be bolted in, because this is that part of this wing, and you'd be bolting this piece to that wing, so you'd have to go along this edge right here. So if you go to side view and Z for wireframe, you can scale this down with S and then position it wherever you want along these loop of faces right here. Then you can do Shift D to duplicate and just repeat that. There's 4 of them on the side. The pattern's a little bit different than this, but that's fine. Just kind of do whatever you feel like. And try to space them out fairly evenly. That's probably a good idea to make it look a little bit more realistic. Then the only thing left to do is to fill in these top faces here, because it's actually a hole right now. So we're going to go to Edge Select and select this very furthest edge, and then just press F a bunch of times and just continue pressing F, and that's going to fill in this entire top area here. So that's pretty much it for this. Just remember to save it. Just go to File, you can do Save As to give it a new name. Since I've already done that, I'm just going to do File and Save. Thank you to our awesome Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter yourself, head on over to patreon.com/StephenBrooks. Thank you for your support.